Now the story of a wealthy family who lost everything, and the one son who had no choice but to keep them all together.
It's This Week in Film. This week we got a jam-packed TGIF version of the show, so let's jump right into it. There are 6 new trailers this week, the first being the second trailer for Steven Spielberg's War Horse. Now, I'm a huge fan of Steven Spielberg, especially when he does more adult-themed movies like this. However, something about this particular film is not connecting with me just yet. I feel like it feels like it's trying to be epic and emotional as opposed to just being epic. And I don't know, I feel like it's just being too typical inspirational boy and his horse story. But I also feel like the trailer is kind of underselling it, and I feel like what we're going to get in December is a surprisingly fantastic movie. So don't count me out on loving War Horse, but the trailers haven't been impressing me. Next up is the third trailer for Arthur Christmas. I got nothing on this. This just looks dismal, unfunny, typical tired Christmas comedy cliches. I'm out. Let's move on. Next up is the trailer for a movie that none of you have heard of, and for very good reason. It's called Answers to Nothing, and it's a drama starring Dane Cook. Oh boy. It seems to be one of these Los Angeles set dramas, but the trailer really does a terrible job of actually establishing what the movie's about. And God, Dane Cook, man. I actually like Dane Cook's stand-up. I actually think he has good comedic timing. But in this trailer, his acting is horrible. There's this line where he's talking about something, he's like, I can't believe my mother can't get that through her skull. And it just looks like such a typical, sappy drama with bad acting and nothing unique about it. It just looks like Crash, but like a soap opera version of that. Horrible, but looks like an instant bad movie gem. Answers to Nothing. You will never hear about it again. Next up, we have 2 likely Oscar contenders. The first is My Week with Marilyn, starring Michelle Williams and Dominic Cooper. Now, I have mixed feelings on this trailer. I feel like the movie looks better than I expected it to because it's not just a typical biopic about Marilyn Monroe, but more of a love dilemma story, and I really think that's an interesting angle to take with it. And I just don't feel like Michelle Williams has that presence, you know what I mean? She just seems like, I just don't think her performance looks terribly amazing. But the movie does have Dominic Cooper, who, as you know, I'm a huge fan of after The Devil's Double, and the story of it looks interesting enough for me to want to check it out. The next film is Young Adult, the next film by Jason Reitman, the director of Up in the Air, Juno, and Thank You for Smoking. Still haven't seen Thank You for Smoking, but I love Juno and Up in the Air, and this film is written by Diablo Cody, who wrote Juno, so this movie has a very good track record going into it. And I feel like the trailer is a tad disappointing, to be completely honest. It centers on Charlize Theron playing this naive, juvenile, like 30, 40-something woman who goes back to her high school reunion to win back her old love. It's a really funny concept, but I just feel like the movie just looks a tad underwhelming. But I might be wrong. I feel like the trailer is underselling it. And I feel like the movie we're going to get is a lot more than what the trailer is showing, which is more of just a straight comedy. But for right now, Young Adult looks a little disappointing, but I love Jason Reitman, so I'll definitely be willing to give this one a chance come December. And finally, we have the most interesting trailer of the week, which is the trailer for The Raven, starring John Cusack as Edgar Allan Poe, as he tries to unravel a murder mystery. Now, I didn't know what to think about this movie. It's been one of those movies I've known about, but I figured, we'll wait to see the trailer to see what really comes out of it. Man, this movie looks like so much fun. Sure, John Cusack is a little underwhelming as Edgar Allan Poe. He doesn't have the presence that I figured he would have, but the story of this thing just looks like so much fun. And just seeing this author try to unravel the mystery of his own work is such a great concept. And I can't wait to see what they do to play with it. The director is James McTeague, who previously did V for Vendetta and Ninja Assassin, and this guy just has a great visual style. You even see just the shot composition in this movie and just the setting and everything just looks amazing. So I'm really excited to see The Raven, just to see what McTeague comes up with and see if John Cusack actually ends up delivering as Edgar Allan Poe. Now for some news. As you can tell from the intro, I have some Arrested Development news to reveal. They have announced that they want to revive the TV show for 10 episodes so they can reveal where these characters have been and what they've done, and then lead that into the long-awaited Arrested Development movie. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to happen because this really does feel to me like a Firefly Serenity situation where a show got canceled and then turned into a movie and then no one saw it. I hope it happens because from one of the episodes I've seen of Arrested Development, I really do enjoy it, but I just don't think it's going to get off the ground. Next up, Darren Aronofsky has been given a $150 million budget to make his Noah's Ark movie, which I think is fantastic because it'll be great to see what a visionary like Aronofsky will do with such a high budget. I hope that he gets Christian Bale to play the role as previously rumored, but a director getting reins this big is good enough in and of itself. And this is officially proof that he did not leave Wolverine because of family issues, and that he just wanted to make movies that isn't going to be a hack comic book movie chopped up by Fox. Next up, we've got some 3D news. Disney has decided, due to the success of The Lion King 3D re-release, to re-release... I'm so angry I can't even articulate. Beauty and the Beast and Finding Nemo next year in 3D, and the year after, Monsters, Inc. and The Little Mermaid. God, I just can't be... I couldn't despise any more the studios milking these old films just to get some success out of this stupid, stupid format. But you've heard me rant about this enough, so let's move on. In equally distressing yet somewhat relieving news, we have an update involving the film Tower Heist. Universal announced that they plan on releasing the film on demand 3 weeks after the movie comes out, which is unprecedented, and for only a very reasonable price of $60. Now you can pay for your gas and your whole family's movie tickets, but at home. And now, because of this, Cinemark, which is one of the biggest chains in the country, has decided not to play the film if they go through with this plan. So not only is Tower Heist going to be a terrible film, but it's also going to be a failed experiment and a huge flop for all involved. Yay, not supporting terrible movies. A reboot of the Zorro franchise has been announced. Yay, more reboots! With some TV writers attached to pen it. Now, I think The Mask of Zorro is one of the best action movies of the 1990s, but I was utterly indifferent to The Legend of Zorro, and while I'd rather have Antonio Banderas return to the role, I am fairly indifferent about the prospect of a reboot. Javier Bardem has been hired to voice the villain in Despicable Me 2, whose name is El Macho, which I do think is quite funny. But I'm just not sure if Despicable Me 2 is going to work, because I feel like the whole animated villain shtick can really only work once, but we'll see. I could be proven wrong. Next up, the man, the myth, the legend, Clint Eastwood is returning to acting with a film called The Trouble with the Curve, which centers on a baseball scout who's losing his sight, who's kind of on his last whims, going out to secure some prospect or something like that. Now, I am a little mixed on Clint Eastwood returning to acting because I thought Gran Torino was just such a fantastic goodbye to him in that respect, and I feel like he should continue directing. However, the role does sound interesting enough for me to be interested in what he's going to do. Another role that sounds fairly interesting is that Johnny Depp has been cast to play Dr. Seuss in a biopic. I feel like this could be an insanely off-the-wall, fun performance and a really interesting film if given the right director. The director is going to be key here. I feel like if this movie had like a Michel Gondry type who would really apply a visual style that would be unique to that film and mesh with Dr. Seuss's books, a Johnny Depp Dr. Seuss movie could be an excellent, surreal, fantastic movie. And finally, anybody who was hoping that the upcoming Judge Dredd reboot was going to redeem the franchise, don't get your hopes up. It was announced today that director Pete Travis has been locked out of the editing room, which, as we saw with Dreamhouse last week, does not work. In fact, I didn't even support that film because of how unhappy Jen Sheridan was with the final cut, and I don't think it's fair to support a movie that the filmmakers aren't even happy with. This basically means that the studio is extremely unhappy with the film and is trying to rectify it in any way possible. So odds are next year Judge Dredd is not going to be a movie worth spending money on. So that's the end of another incredibly loaded episode of This Week in Film. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, subscribe to my channel. And until next time, I'm Movie Kid Mike, making sure your time is worth your money.